Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. This episode of Slam the Gavel is sponsored by CPS Protect Consulting Services. A child protective services case is one of the most frightening experiences for any parent. Don't face it alone. Face it with confidence with Urgent Assist. By CPS Protect, you can have access to former CPS investigators to make sure you preserve your rights and protect your family. If you're facing CPS involvement and aren't sure where to turn, their child welfare consultants can help you. Visit cpsprotect.com/subscribe and enter the coupon code Slam the Gavel for 60% off your first year of Urgent Assist. And this is available in all 50 states. I have another announcement. Bradley's mother, Narcus Golan, passed away in the fall of 2022. Bradley is autistic and needs structured routine and therapies he receives for his autism 6 days a week. However, Italy just entrusted Bradley to the Italian Social Services. If he is ruled to go back, he will face the next 3 to 4 years in the Italian foster care system, where he can't speak or understand the language. He will then be taken away from the only family he has ever known. Please contact Governor Hochul at 518-474-8390 to please keep Bradley here safe in these United States. That's Governor Hochul, 518-474-8390, hashtag keep Bradley safe. Another announcement, go to the site, pleasedoyourjob.com. We need 2,500 more signatures to have a case reopened. That's pleasedoyourjob.com. One last announcement, you are invited to the conference with Child Coalition Custodial Interference Press Conference, October 31st, 2023 at 10:30, which will take place at the Pennsylvania State Capitol, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, in the main rotunda stairs. So that's the Conference for Child Custody Coalition of Custodial Interference Press Conference, October 31st, 2023 at 10:30 at PA State Capitol, Harrisburg, PA, in main rotunda stairs. I've got a brand new guest. I have Irwin Savoye on. We're going to talk about espousing some corruption that's happening in St. Tammany Parish and educating some elderly people regarding things that they should be mindful of when it comes to their title and mortgage documents. And we would not wish this on our worst enemy. I welcome you.
No.
And boy, how are you? And how did you
Good.
get into this?
How are you? And thank you for having me on the show and following my stuff. It's crazy. To live it is one thing, but to try to put myself on the outside of someone in your position or anyone else's position to look in at what I'm dealing with, I would think I was crazy. I, I think, sometimes it makes you stop and look in the mirror and question your own sanity, knowing that you know what you're seeing is correct.
Mhm.
Or rather what you're seeing is incorrect that they're trying to put in front of you, but you know what it should be, and you know how, I have had to literally try to figure out how to not only learn about all of this stuff with the mortgage. It started, our thing really started, I feel like, back in late 19 into early 2020 with that whole situation with my son and our local judge,
Mhm.
and him being sentenced for 9 months and all, just for literally defending himself against two other children that entered private property. That's what happened.
Mhm.
And through all of that other chaos that was revolved around that situation, the sheriffs got involved then because my son's mother went to the sheriff's department at one point in late 19, and everything's October too. That's kind of weird. I was just really looking at that last night. It was October of 19 when his mom went to the sheriff's, made an event report that created a situation where our local sheriffs contacted us and let us know that if my mother or myself was found around my son at any point in time, they would arrest us. And they came through my house one Saturday morning, October 19th. It was Saturday, looking for my son because his mother reported him as a missing child. So that created this whole situation that got our sheriff's department involved, because I actually live in the Slidell police city limits. So I deal with a whole different, as far as local police. Um, Never had any issues with them, had a great rapport with them up until that point.
Mhm.
And that's when I started realizing how corrupt our parish really is.
Now,
And, maybe that's okay for some citizens that it's not affecting, but when you're being affected by it, it's a problem. And that's when it opens your eyes up to really realize what's going on. So that has led me down 1,000 plus rabbit holes at this point in my life.
right now, when your ex went to the sheriff's, what charges was she filing that to keep
uh,
you away and your mother away from your child?
to this day, they will not allow me to see that event report that she filled out. I have spoken to, just through the course of calling and calling and trying to get through to some, and you call the sheriff's department, or any entity in any business, you call them, and of course you're not going to get I'm sorry, you're not going to get the same person every time that you call. So I lucked up one day and got this really nice little lady that was a deputy that answered the phone, and she told me a little bit, but she couldn't tell me any details about what that event report said. They literally took an item card, as though you would get if you went and made a report or was in an accident or something. Okay, she took an item card. The deputy at the desk at the sheriff's department, at the sheriff's complex here in Slidell, he scratched out the word event, item rather, and hand wrote event above that and created an event card. They do technically, from my understanding, they do have where they'll take an event report from you, but I don't think that there's a standard card specifically report versus item. So if you want to get technical, well,
Mhm.
she took that and went out to her car in the parking lot. From what I've pieced together of how it came about and time wise, she must have went directly to her car, sent me a picture of that card. No description of what she was saying the event was. The lady said that there was nothing bad in there. It was just as if I went in there and made a report that her and my son was over here the day before. Why would you do that? I don't know. But that's kind of what they played it out to be. So that went on from like October 19th until, and that's 2019, until the probably around like December 20th of 19. So for a few months, I was literally putting food in my mailbox for my son to come by the house and eat,
Mm.
being threatened by the sheriffs, which let me fill everybody in on this little tidbit. Where I live at, right, well, now where I live at is in my parents' house, the one that I grew up in. My home that I bought in '09 that ends up being taken by the sheriffs recently, that is right next door. Pearl. I'm sorry, my dogs.
Yeah.
That is it's right next door to the house that I grew up in. So I've lived on this street pretty much my whole life, except for a period in my teenage years, like 18, 19, when I moved away. I'll get to that reason why soon, why I did move away, and the trauma that was sustained here on this street in my childhood that I have had to just look the other way and try to act like it never happened, to just to get through life. And that's fine. I did it. I'm where I'm at. I'm okay, but there are consequences and people need to be held accountable for what I did go through. And we are fixing to address that next. And it's then, so I end up coming back and buying my house next door in '09 with the intention, because my parents were fixing to get custody of my two little cousins and their brother. So, kind of wanted to be closer with my family and help them. That's how I got back on the street. And in '09, I bought my house '09. In 2011, I ended up, and she's not my ex. She's a lady. This is the crazier part of the whole story with him. She literally worked at the store at the end of my street across the highway. And every afternoon coming home from work, that was my stop on the way home. I just knew her from working there. That was it. That was it. There was no anything between us. One day she needed someone to get her son off of the school bus. And that's how I met my son, the child that I call my son. And like within a month, Next thing I know, he's living here with me and I'm raising him full time. And there you are, and here we are, So, but in that process, we went through the little thing in 19 that got the sheriffs involved. So, you know, did that relive things for our sheriff? Is it something that happened that he tried to put out of his mind too, or I don't know. I don't know. I know for me, it was something. The only way I could cope with it was to simply put it out of my mind, lock it away in Pandora's box, and never open it again. Little did I ever suspect that we would be where we are right now, and that bastard would have taken, excuse my language, that he would have taken my house and done everything that has happened to my family and been a part of it. Whether he was at the front, the front of it, or rather he was on the ass end of it, and it's his signature on everything. Somewhere he knew what was going on, and he, as in that position of what he's supposed to do and provide for us to the citizens, didn't do it. He chose to make a profit off of my situation, and a large profit at that, and in turn, I feel like rub that stuff in my face even more as to what happened, and even more as to he still had control over that situation, if that makes sense. So yeah, and never would I have thought that behind some fraudulent documents that my house would be taken from me. And in turn, I'm looking at my mom and dad's house probably being the next one, because there's documents in the clerk of court's office on record that I have copies of that mimic my mortgage documents, my assignment history, the companies that they say bought our loans when they didn't. And in the mortgage industry, and this is a problem that I ran into, a lot of people want to just jump to automatically, well, they sell off loans all the time. Well, that's very true. They do. But that doesn't mean that that's necessarily the case for us. Just because that happens to Tom, Dick, and Harry don't mean that they did that to Irwin and Irwin. We didn't have those types of loans. My loan was owned, and I'm getting ahead of it a little bit, but my loan was owned by Federal Home Loan Mortgage Corporation from November of 2009. It was originated in October of 2009. I don't know the time frame, the couple of weeks in between it being originated and Federal Home saying that they bought it in a pool sale, but that's who I've always known to be the owner of my loan, all the way up until a letter that I received from my servicing company in 2021 to let us know that it had sold, or it was going to sell, on December 19th of 2021. Therefore, that puts us with two owners of my loan throughout my whole loan period. I don't know every servicer, but I do know most of them. There's a little time frame in between where they saying that I stopped making payments in 19, which again, let's go back to when they're saying I stopped making payments is right when my son came back from Florida and the sheriffs got involved. So, is it coincidental? Who knows? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think it's all been a poorly orchestrated thing. They thought they had it all wrapped up real tight and they were going to do this, that, and the other and shut me up and put me out of my home, cause me to be in a situation where all of my documents, my files, everything would be scattered. Perhaps they would have the opportunity to get a hold of them, because the first share sale was back on April 20th, 2022. And the first sheriff sale, now keep in mind, the whole time I'm talking to my mortgage servicer, they don't know anything about the sheriff sale. Knew nothing about it. We were not in foreclosure status. But nobody over here seems to give two craps about that. Louisiana mortgage law is so different, I have been told by multiple people, than if we were up north somewhere. If we were in any other state, because we have Napoleonic law, so they can manipulate it to whatever they want to. It's crazy. An error in documents is just simply an error. They don't consider that to be something that's substantial here in court for your mortgage documents, but yet that is the biggest investment that most people make throughout their lifetime.
Definitely.
So why is that not one of the most important things in the industry, to keep the history of it correct? to keep certain things correct and notice, really pay attention to these certain things and documents that they're filing at the clerk's office. That's the hub of the crime right there. And I didn't realize that until going through this situation. Yeah, and I've recently been in contact with, and unfortunately our clerk of court that we did not win the election yesterday. It was very, very, very close. So now we have Miss Jessica Brewster as our new clerk of court. And she's the one that I just found recently through some fraudulent documents that they have on file at the clerks, through a different attorney claiming that she handled my grandmother's succession in 15, versus our family attorney, who I have the documents where it was originally filed under his name. Now it's been deleted under his case file information, strictly under this other woman's name. And it's not the same succession that we saw before. They have literally taken, there's handwritten numbers at the bottom right hand corner of pages in my grandmother's original succession that I printed out over a year ago, versus going through all of this process, because my grandmother's house is included in what my mother should have inherited. Free and clear of a mortgage, paid for, a couple $100,000 house sitting in a nice neighborhood in Slidell. Well, yeah. So our old clerk of court had just recently started working with me, realizing there was some stuff going on inside of her office that shouldn't have been taking place, and she didn't know about it. Basically, as far as, like, I told her, you have a clerk that's working for the judges and the attorneys and not for you. And I think her eyes popped open real wide when I showed her, or explained that to her, kind of gave her some reason. I'm sorry with the drink. I gave her some reasoning as to what to look for. In our particular case alone, you can take, when I printed out my grandma's succession, let's say a year ago, it printed some pages out like it should have, and in some pages it printed out blank. But you could see the outline, like the margin thing around the paper, and there was handwritten numbers, like page numbers at the bottom in the right hand corner. I asked the clerk of courts about that, and this was not the head of the clerk of courts. This was one of the clerks, and she told me, several of them told me that, oh, it must have been something wrong with my computer that it didn't print out those pages properly.
Mhm.
And I was new at all of this then, so I'm like, maybe that's possible. Maybe I screwed up. Maybe I jumped ahead too quick and went to the next file and tried to print it. Maybe. Now, in hindsight, looking at it now, all of the documents that are on file with this new attorney in the clerk of court's office, and that has my grandmother's succession, anything to do with it, any of the documents that have her as a AKA and a second name, as opposed to what her originals are even entitled as her being, which is just one name, Joyce Miller Savoye. What they're doing is they're altering through the courts. They're making all these AKAs up for people in the clerk of court's office. It's almost as though the clerk has been programmed to accept a method of how they do things from the attorneys and the judge's side of it, that they don't question it in the clerk's office. It's become a normal process for them. And I think it's very abnormal that you would take someone who is listed in an original filing as one particular name, and to reopen that succession, let's just use succession for an example, because that's what we were dealing with, to reopen someone's succession from 2015 and 2021 that was strictly listed as Joyce Miller Savoye, to have to create an AKA name for that person that they're nowhere in their original filings is there ever mention of an AKA anything. So all of a sudden, you as a different attorney, you create, by using her middle name, you created a second identity of my grandmother. And that's exactly what they're doing. And I think that is going to end up being something that's going to also potentially affect the election and the voting and everything that just took place yesterday. If they really stop and go back and look through the names in that, I have a feeling that they're going to find a lot of people that are deceased in our community that have had AKAs developed, because that's what I have found going through doing my own research through the clerk of court's office, is that I have found a lot of successions being reopened from years ago. I'm talking one of them, the guy that supposedly buys my house or bought my house after the sheriff's sale, after an REO realtor and all that crazy stuff.
Mhm.
Gentleman, just seeing if I could get any information on him when I started seeing him at my house. I found the documents online. I didn't know his name or anything, but I did some good research and I found out who owned it and got those documents. They he bought another property a year ago, according to his history in the clerk's office, and it was through a succession. Hey, mama. It was through a succession, and it's in Mandeville, probably about 45 minutes away from where we live at. And it shows the succession being reopened and just AKAs. I can't find any original documents on that succession because it's not ours, so I don't really know. I haven't just put as much time into looking to see, but what I see online, it shows that he bought this other property through a succession, and it was dated back that it originally was opened in 1999, I think it was.
Mhm.
And so I don't know. It's like that's what I'm finding going on in our clerk's office, and a lot of curators being assigned, saying that they can't find these people. My house actually was, and that's crazy. I'm telling you that, and it goes within the history of my house. In like 2000-ish, I think it was 1999 or 2000. There was a little old lady that lived here for a long time. Um, she had a daughter that lived here with her that was special needs, but she drove and worked at the Goodwill and stuff, productive in the community. So it was those two, and then there was a son. The old lady had a son, and he was paranoid schizophrenic. So I think she passed away like 99 or 2000. So when she passed away, the daughter had passed away a year or two prior to her. So at that point, it left just the paranoid schizophrenic son here by himself. Utilities got cut off, property taxes didn't get paid. Who knows what else didn't get done. But one winter, he set the bathroom on fire to keep warm. He was trying to just have a little fire, I guess, and ended up catching the bathroom on fire. The police, fire department, ambulance, and the coroner, our coroner, who got arrested. And I don't remember what charges or whatever they had against him, but it was a big ordeal with the coroner at that time, shortly after. And so he's not the coroner anymore, but that coroner, they ended up carrying off the guy. We never saw him again.
Mm.
And 2 years later, roughly 2 years later, Hurricane Katrina hit. So we never saw anything to do with them, their existence ever again. So now fast forward to where I'm at. I bought the house in 09. 07, a guy, Mr. Don, bought my house from a sheriff's sale. He thought that he bought an empty lot. So for whatever reason, they had it labeled that that house had been demolished from the storm. Probably, my opinion, somebody collected some insurance money on that deal. Whoever was claiming to own the house at that time, which now I have found all of the sheriff tax sales that took place on my property at that time frame. A lot of them, multiple ones throughout the year. So from 02, 3, 4, no, let's see, 3 and 4, and then 5 Katrina hit. So the house was empty year 3, 4, 5 Katrina hit. Then it was empty 6 and 7. Mr. Don bought it. He bought it from a tax sale. Again, thought the lot was empty. So I don't know what shenanigans they had going on over there. That sheriff from that time frame is now in prison for molesting young boys, family members, and a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. So that's a horrible situation. I actually recently spoke to someone that was recently incarcerated at our St. Tammany jail. And he was incarcerated a few years back, and he was in there with one of the victims of that sheriff, a young man. Well, I say a young man. I think this gentleman's about 50 years old from the way he explained him. I think his nickname is Psycho or something, he told me. And every time when something would come on the TV, or anywhere that guy heard or saw that sheriff, he would flip out in the jail, they said, and start destroying stuff. So this poor young man that's now an adult, older than I am, had to go through this abuse from this gentleman. And unfortunately, it didn't stop with him. Now you got the new sheriff. You have what I'm talking about, what I'm fixing to share with everyone. That happened with me, that my own mother. I haven't even sat down and told my mother about this yet because I don't want to put this burden upon her because she's still grieving my friggin' dad dying. She's grieving the fact she's so in disillusion. She doesn't even believe what's going on. I'm watching my mother live in just a bubble because my dad took care of her for 46 years. And the people that were supposed to help her establish and secure that she had the security in her future that my dad planned for her to have, they have totally stripped her from that, from a lot of illegal stuff that our sheriff won't help us with because he's still making a commission on my house, period. He's taking my house, making us homeless. He doesn't care about that. That's his end goal because he's still trying to put that pressure up on me. I feel like just have that control over us. You know, there was many years that I wouldn't speak about this out of my own self-shame, I guess, in a way, and just different things that are hard to explain. But I still fully don't understand some of why it's taking me so long to even speak about it, or you know. And yesterday I got a lot of support when I came out about that, but then I got a random phone call, somebody talking about me holding the sheriff's penis, and it's like, who is this guy? Like, why are you calling my phone with this crap? Like, now I understand why people don't want to come out and speak about the things that happen to them. I can fully understand it now. Even though I had it happen to me and I wasn't speaking about it, I didn't understand it because I hadn't spoken about it yet. I didn't have that feedback, negative or positive. Keeping it silent in a way kind of makes it easier to deal with it sometimes because you're not having to deal with all that other stuff that comes along with it. If you just avoid what your situation was, you just move on in life, which is why I didn't live here for many years.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, you probably got 30 questions to ask me or something.
Well, then, okay, so then you moved back, and now all this is happening with your mother's house.
Yeah.
So,
Since on, I started finding, like I said, documents in there. They claim that even though it's two different loans, let me backtrack a little bit. I did my loan October 16th of 2009. In September of 2009, roughly a month, maybe 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks before I did my loan at the same company, my dad and I went to the same company, and he took out an equity loan on his home. He had a couple of small debts that he wanted to pay off and just get those things off his back, and it'd be a little cheaper with this, blah, blah, blah. So that's what he did. Again, him being the one that took care of their finances, my mom, not to say he did things without asking her or anything, it wasn't like that, but he would explain to her what was going on. She would either approve or disapprove or want to know a little bit more, whatever, and they would go from there.
mm-hmm.
But I don't even know if she was there when they did this. I know she was aware of it, and she wasn't. She didn't approve of it. She didn't want my dad to do it. I will say that. But to help me, I needed about 5,000 more to put down to be able to get my house. So, and he kind of did that instead of dipping into his IRA or even his savings or anything. And it gave him an opportunity to pay some other bills off, whatever. So that mortgage company now has my dad's history and credit and everything for one thing for his house. Then not even a month later, I come back in. I'm ready to do my house. So now you have two Irwin Savoyes, one junior, one the third. I had a lot of cash that I made. I didn't have a steady check with 1099, or, like my dad worked for the government. So I think what they did was took his established credit and ran with it and did a lot of criminal activity around it and possibly, revolving loans and stuff I've ran across in their mortgage history recently. two loans being done on the same exact day for just $800 in difference, but they're like $17,000 each. And it's called a revolving loan, is what they're calling it.
That's
Well, they were both done at the same place the same day. I don't think that to be true at all. As a matter of fact, I know it's not. In my loan history, they added a loan modification that supposedly took place in 2017. There's no record of it in the clerk of court's office. There's no record of it with my servicing company that serviced my loan at that time that I've gotten in contact with. There's no record of it. The document itself is not stamped through a clerk's office. It's not anything. We obtained that document in a stack of papers at the sheriff's service. And this is something else that's really strange that I really want to make sure I talk about, is that when we were served for my house, my dad passed away March 22nd of 21. So when he passed away, he was the primary borrower on both homes because of his established, work history in that. October, Hurricane Ida hit here, I think like the end of September of 21, like September 28th or something. October 14th, my mother and I both got served individually. I got served at my house. She got served at their house with a notice of seizure from the sheriff's department. That's how this started. I didn't know what the hell a notice of seizure was. We were in foreclosure one time in my house, according to our history and according to the mortgage servicer at that time. We went into foreclosure, worked out whatever with them, got it out of court. The case was dismissed without, and I have those documents, it was dismissed without prejudice against us. I don't know exactly why, but in the current history of that foreclosure suit, there's records showing that an ad was placed in what they call our local, like a farmer's magazine or something, or a farmer's newspaper. That's where they post all the sheriff sales and all of this. On a whole nother level, I think that they're kind of tied into it some kind of way. So he posted an ad saying that they couldn't find my promissory note. And that was on September 12th or 13th of 2012. And that's in our file history in that foreclosure suit, but it also in that foreclosure suit shows where the attorney that's brought this foreclosure suit present now, since dad died, that attorney supposedly inserts and becomes a part of the suit from 2012. But I don't remember hearing her name ever. I can't find any documents in our original documents about that situation that has her in it. It's only through the clerk's site online, so through the clerk's office. So somehow somebody's being able to infiltrate documents that have been manipulated, or remove things and then insert other things that mimic what they need it to be, to have this big mass situation that we're dealing with. And it's crazy. It is nuts. But the sheriff, I'm sorry, where I was going real quick is that what we got served is not the same paper that is on file at the clerk's office and that is being ran through the court to seize my house. Doesn't make sense. What we got served, nothing that we got served is, as far as the couple of documents for the notice of seizure, the rest of it was a big stack of our mortgage history, supposedly, that they blacked out all of our account information, not thinking that I'd ever go as far as I did to get the real stuff. So
that's terrible. People don't know this can happen. Have you heard of anyone else in Tammany?
Yeah, actually, I have spoken to a number of other families, and I have found some things that some families weren't even aware of by going through the clerk's site, and by going through these cases and seeing the similarities and the repeated patterns of what I found in ours. We're not the first and only victims, I can assure you of that. You know, sadly, I couldn't get anybody to help me with the house situation. Sadly enough, nobody, nobody has done anything to really help us, and an authoritative figure at all. We have every office I call, everything. They say, oh well, that involves judges, or that involves this, or that might be that. Is you got to call this department. Not one person has said, oh, okay, yeah, give me what you got. Or if they do, once they get it, they run the other way. Even attorneys, nobody wants to go up against these judges. I've had 3 attorneys tell me in the same day after an hour consultation with each one of them, tell me point blank, pretty much almost the same thing verbatim, that they don't want to go against, they wouldn't want to go against these other attorneys, the good old boy attorneys that are still here, because they don't know what judges the attorneys have in their pockets. That's what I've been told. I said, wouldn't that some shit? You would think it would be the other way around. The judges should have the attorneys in their pockets, or however, you would think the one in the higher position, so to say, would be the one running the show. But no, it seems to be it's the opposite way. It's our local good old boy attorneys and that whole network of them that are still here that are really running the judges in the clerk's office and using the clerk's office to infiltrate all of this criminal activity that they're conducting in our community.
So there's other homeless people that have been forced to leave their homes.
Yeah, under different, maybe not the exact same reason, but a lot of it I'm finding is revolving around successions. Successions in court appointed curators. Like my house, when that lady died, I don't think that they had a succession for her. I mean, the only person that I know that was a living relative to that woman was the mom. Her daughter that was special needs had a daughter. I don't know where that daughter lives at, or she's even alive still, or what the deal is. In the documents, I found a court-appointed curator being assigned to her. Now they've taken her last name, and again with the AKAs, what they've done just to her last name, it's Gutierrez. It's a kind of unique name. I don't remember exactly the original spelling of it. I don't know the absolute original one, but what I do know is that I found that last name and her first name. The last name has been manipulated like 4 different ways for the spelling of her last name. So you find some documents and some history and some sheriff sales on this property involving her name after she's deceased under one spelling, some other documents and activity being done on the house under a different spelling, and that would be them inserting documents through the court with the court-appointed curator trying to say that the curator notified the next of kin or the address where she was last known to be, which keeps being out-of-state addresses for all of these curators, for the people that they're trying to say that they got in touch with or were trying to get in touch with. Every one of them's last known address, if it's listed on there on anyone's cases that I have researched, the address will be out of state. But yet they've lived here their whole life, is kind of what you're getting at. But all of a sudden that they're dead and you're trying to say you're getting in touch with them, you've pulled an address out of the air that's in another state.
Yeah, how can that be?
Well, if you have the judges working with the attorneys, it's a big old thing. And somebody's making real nice off of selling these houses. Even though my house had a mortgage on it still, when you deduct off the amount in the 20 years of this loan modification that they're trying to say that we did, that we didn't do, that is obviously a fraudulent document. There's no history of it. We didn't do it. There's no new promissory note that's been produced reflecting an additional 20 years of a promise that we're guaranteeing to pay. There's none of this. They can't even produce our original, the deed or whatever it is, the note, the promissory note. They can't even produce that. All they have produced is a electronically signed, but it's dated the same day that we originated our loan. Well, if we were there at your office originating a loan, why in the hell would my dad have electronically signed this document that you're saying this attorney said he couldn't find it in 2012, but all of a sudden here it is. Penny Daggerpoint, our new foreclosure attorney, she inserts herself in that case right after he puts that notice in the newspaper. So I don't think she was ever involved in that case until now. She went back and backfiled into it by having access in the clerk's office to remove things and making it appear as though she, speaking to that mortgage servicer, she was never involved in our case. They never thought that I was going to be smart enough to figure all this shit out. And that's so sorry. That's the bottom line. Or they didn't really realize that. I don't know. I really don't know. Part of me feels like my house was caught up in this whole cycle of these sheriff sales that was going on, and however they were profiting from that in some kind of a way, because you have all these different companies that are listed as buying my house over and over and over at the sheriff sales when it was empty, even into the time frame of Mr. Don owning my house for 2 years before I bought it, when he bought it from the sheriff sale, into 2010 after I bought it. There's still sheriff sale histories that were taking place, and they all link back to these individual little companies. One of them is called Dragonfly Enterprise, for example. One of our old predominant judges that was here for years was named Gary Dragon Pearlstop, was named Gary Dragon. Dragon Enterprise. I've already spoken to, I've born and raised here 4 to 6 years. I know a lot of these people from my own family history. So I know, and I did a little research, it is to his name. That was a company that he started. Well, all of these little companies that are buying these houses at the tax sales around in our parish all link back to one main company. And it's called, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, it's called IBIS, IBIS. I'm assuming I'm saying it correctly. It's IBIS Investment Corporation. And it's I think they have it listed as like the primary owner is a gentleman named Dennis C. Drury, and he pops up as the agent on a lot of these documents that are involving these properties in sheriff sales. So I feel like, I don't really know what I think about that. I have felt for a long time that there's definitely something going on with that, and them. Like I really feel like my house, because I can't find, I'm jumping around a little bit, but on my tax assessment information, current from the tax assessor's office, well, from 2022 in October, I had it printed out. It has 2 instrument numbers listed for my property next door. One of them is listed as being my property description, it says. So you pull up that instrument number on the clerk site under land records, and it leads you back to, I think that one brings you back to a tax sale with the old lady that's deceased. So that's what that instrument number brings you to. Then they have listed as my deed instrument number is nothing to do with us. Put it that way. And I can't find anywhere on the clerk site or anywhere in these documents that we've been served or that I have extracted and gotten from the clerk site myself. There's no deed information for us. There's nothing recorded for a deed. There's a mortgage. There's a promissory note, supposedly, which I know isn't authentic by any means. And there's this thing called a 1-4 rider or something. I don't know exactly what that is. So basically the way it appears, because in all of our foreclosure papers that the sheriff's office, so keep in mind, the sheriff's office, what's going through 22nd JDC at our court judges in the clerk's office, what supposedly ran through there and is on file with them is one set of information. What the sheriff's department has backfiled to the clerk's office, claiming that they seized my home, sold it, and that they did their job pretty much what the court had ordered. Those 2 bits of information don't add up. They don't match up. So they served us with one set of information that says that they're seizing my house under article such and such through such and such. On what's at the clerk's office, that I found by accident, because it's nothing that they ever produced to us, says that it's the notice to the clerk. It says that they're taking my house under Act 89 of Louisiana Legislature of the year 1940. But when I looked that up, the only thing I could find about that was referring to homestead exempt properties, the reimbursement of federal funding for the homestead exempt properties. And I learned that it goes into a trust fund that is overseen by, I think, a board of 8 handpicked citizens, nothing regulated by federal government or local government at all. It reflects to the taxes for the share, the police and your road work and all that stuff. That's what that refers to. And sheriff levies and liens, it refers to that. So no one at the sheriff's department can tell me what that is referring to. Why do they have that on file versus what I got served? So no matter what, if I serve you something and tell you I need you to come to court for this reason, and you go out and you're right, and your everything is to go get an attorney or to represent yourself and to defend what they're saying you did or need to dispute, how are you going to do that and properly go into court and defend or dispute any of that if what they're running through court is something totally different than what they've provided you with? So that's where we are with that, and that's crazy that our sheriff's department literally. So somewhere, somehow, what they served me, what they had a deputy come out and serve me. Mm-hmm. If the head of our sheriff didn't know about it, and he wants to play that stupid game and say that he wasn't aware of it, but yet it's his signature and his authorization on it, or deputy clerks that he should still be overseeing what's going on, especially if someone comes back to you and says, hey, wait a minute, this happened and there's a problem. He should step up and say, okay, well, wait a minute, this is my name on it all at the end of the day. Let me find out what's going on. No, he didn't. And now everybody now probably, hopefully, can understand why he did. But for me, I'm not this has been going on. So it was that easy to just incorporate me, his personal vendetta, into this situation and get me out of my house. And everybody was win-win except for us.
When did you leave your home?
The last sheriff's sale was January 18th, they're saying, of 23. And I think my paper was like the end of March that I got out. And now keep in mind, we were served the first time October of 21. So there was 3 sheriff's sales in between that. The sheriff's office is only recording and producing on documents that there was 2. The clerk's office had the information on file. I have it printed out from originally. I have the information printed from the sheriff's site from the April 20th sale. It's all gone now. So who took that out of the clerk's site? Who took it off of the sheriff's site? Why even delete it?
Right, because wouldn't they keep those documents for, I don't know, like a period of decades?
Everybody, if you go to the sheriff's site and actually click on the foreclosure listings for April 20th of 22, you'll see the houses that are listed that were on there then, and they're numbered as far as their information and everything. I think I was number 13. So I want to say it goes, you'll see 12, then it jumps to 14. So like, let's say I was 13, that information has been completely removed. Should it have been removed? Absolutely not. I would assume not. If mine was removed, then why weren't any of the other ones removed? It doesn't make sense. Now, and here's a big thing is that our tax assessor's office, what was I saying? Gosh.
About the courthouse.
Which part? Oh, damn, my brain went blank. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what I was saying, but basically it's been a nightmare, all of it. For them to go through and do what they were able to do, and in our situation, and I'm seeing it, and this is what started making me see in the clerk site to really realize If I, as a citizen, can sit there and piece all of this together from pulling different cases and comparing and seeing the repeat on the sheriff's site alone. Oh, that's what I was talking about, the sheriff sale information. Somehow it's all gone. You would think it should still be there.
Right.
They claim, I'm gonna go back a little bit. They claim to have rescinded that sheriff sale from April 20th to give the heirs of the property time to bring the loan current. That's what the letters from the sheriff's department said. That's what the letters from the attorney, the foreclosure attorney, said. My mortgage servicer still is over here like sending me letters the whole time telling me that they're working on gathering my information to answer my concerns. And even after the house was sold the last time, they still sent me letters months after. So I don't know what they actually presented to my mortgage servicer, but as the law firm and the attorney, she's the common denominator. She has access to submit everything to the courts and get it into the court, get the houses with writs of seizures or whatever they call in all of the different variations that they're seizing these houses, get the sheriff's department to evict the people, because that's who does that. So they were threatening me if I didn't take this check for $2,000, supposedly from my mortgage servicer, and it was a relocation check or relocation fee, they said. If I wouldn't have taken that check and been able to stay in my home until March of 23 to get all my stuff together and move, 5 days, the sheriffs would have been at my house and thrown me, my son, and all of our crap out on the road. So that was pretty much the last, after 3 sheriff sales, fighting all of this stuff, trying to see what's going on. My mom's house in the process. My mom's attorney that did dad's succession is telling her if she put me in what do you call it, in power of attorney, he would help her undo that and make sure I got served. He didn't want my mother and I to be on the same team at all.
Mhm.
Why do you think I bought the house next door to my parents? Because that was the end goal for me to hopefully be able to be here for them, especially that it's my mother by herself now,
Mhm.
but next door. Have my own house that if you take that 20-year loan modification off, and whatever dollar amount, I haven't seen a dollar amount that they're saying that loan modification specifically added to my loan amount. So if you take that time frame and that estimate that amount, I only owed about what I was saying from the beginning, about $30,000 on my house paid off. So now they did all of this and legal fees, brought it up to $69,000. That's what they needed from the sheriff's sale. That's what they were sending me. I never got a reinstatement fee or a letter from my mortgage servicer. I only got it from my, I only got it from the attorney doing the foreclosure. She sent emails to my mom's attorney handling dad's succession for a reinstatement fee.
Mm.
And it was a wire. It was information to wire money to a Wells Fargo account when my loan servicer is Shell Point, who doesn't use Wells Fargo, they said. They didn't know anything about that. So now you got where 2 attorneys, again, the sheriffs won't take a report from me. So who the hell am I supposed to report this to? We got 2 attorneys that are trying to attempt to wire fraud money out of a homeowner, or else they're going to steal their home from them like they did. And the sheriff's department sitting over there just like a king on top of the mountain, I guess, because he made over $2,000 commission off of my house.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's crazy. It's disgusting. It truly is disgusting. And yes, there are, when you asked before, other people, there's and I don't know for sure that some of these people were even in their home or not. I haven't gotten that far and to be able to find those details out. But some of them look as though it may have been a situation like my mother. And what I have a very, I really fear a lot that this is what they were trying to do or are trying to do, is to come back and put some pressure on her, try to confuse her. They've already confused her. What was these I guess if it's an older lady, that's left and her husband's passed away, or vice versa,
Uh-huh.
they'll try to come. I had someone recently tell me that they got contacted, another local group that I kind of work with or whatever. We help each other if we can, whatever, talking that. And the lady had told me that she got a phone call not that long ago from a daughter of an elderly lady in our community. And don't quote me on it, but it was something about that senior citizen lady had gotten some documents in the mail about her property taxes.
Mm.
So they knew it wasn't correct, but they wanted this lady to just sign this paper and it would all be. Well, what it is it's I think it's these companies that are coming around and buying these houses at the sheriff's sale, so to say. They're infringing on these people's, their property, their personal space. They're sending them these letters trying to confuse these elderly people, have them sign these documents thinking that it's the right thing to do, when in turn, are they really signing documents that signing their rights away to their home, saying that they understand that this company bought their house at the tax sale, and and then that's a repeated cycle. And again, that all revolves around the sheriff. The sheriff, it, it's insane. Then you add in on my house that it was inside of city limits. So let me fill everybody in on that a little bit. Inside of city limits, we have the city marshal. We have the local courthouse, Slidell City Court, that has one judge. There's no other judges at that courthouse. It's a courthouse that you cannot bring your cell phones into. You cannot bring any audio into. You can't do any of that. It's a very private, very corrupt courthouse. And I didn't realize that until going through a situation with my son in 2019 and 20. That judge was, up till 2019, he was our city attorney. That was the same gentleman that issued liens against properties that the city had to supposedly go board up the house or winterize it or clean the lot because it was vacant or abandoned.
Mm.
My house was empty. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It sat empty. So it accumulated from the city. Well, I didn't know then that that was the guy that was going to be the judge a few years later over my son, that knew the history of my house, knew where we lived at, and his father, and I'm throwing a lot of dirt out there right now, his father and grandfather were over the clerk of court's office in Orleans Parish, which is on like an hour away from us. That's where all of your bankruptcy court and stuff is held, stuff like that for our district or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
His dad was a judge prior to that in Orleans Parish and got caught up for doing some corrupt activity or being involved in this brothel and gambling house or something. To my understanding and my research of it, the dad was literally on the bench sentencing people for activities that took place at an establishment that I think he was part owner of. It ended up getting exposed. So that dad stepped down off of the bench from being the judge and went and joined grandpa at the clerk of court's office.
Mm-hmm.
So that our new city court judge, that was our city attorney, he knows how to manipulate all of that clerk of court's information. So that's my opinion to that. And our head of the sheriff now, that's doing all of this, that did what he did to me as a child, that has us where we are right now. He was chief of police for Slidell. So as chief of police for Slidell, that city attorney in that same time span, if someone were to bring a suit against the chief of police, let's say, or police officer, any of that stuff, he would be the attorney to defend them against the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
This is terrible.
I have
What?
documents that I printed out from the clerk site that has that judge as city attorney signing things. Our mayor that used to work with my dad at Stennis years ago, piece all that craziness together in there. Our current mayor, and this was just in 2019, I found this particular document I'm gonna tell you about real quick. Our current mayor is authorizing the attorney that handled dad's succession. He was authorized to be a court appointed curator In 2019, while the guy that's the judge now was the city attorney, he signed on. So you got all three of these people, the current mayor, my mom's attorney that did the succession, and the judge that sentenced my son to all of this. You have these three people that are on documents from 2019, the same time frame that I was going and trying to talk to the judge as city attorney to get copies of the police report from when the sheriffs came through my house in October of 19 looking for a missing kid, because there was two Slidell officers that joined them. As city attorney, he wouldn't give me those police reports. And I told him, I have the conversation recorded from when I talked to him. I told him what I was trying to do with the sheriff's department and hold them accountable at that time for telling my son a month prior that he couldn't report to them that his mom was abusing him in St. Tammany Parish, and was told to leave. When I started questioning all of that, yeah, it's been one nightmare after another. So I can only imagine me as an adult, or you as an adult, going through all of this stuff in a matter of 3 years, let's say, how it would affect you. Imagine as being a 15-year-old child, being abused in one state for a couple of months, brought back to the state where you lived at, brought back to where you grew up at, told that you can't go to your home and the person that raised you all of these years, but that person is going behind everyone's back except for that little boy's real dad. And making sure this kid had 3 new bikes in those couple of months time frame that he needed, make sure he had all the clothes he needed, gave him money for haircuts, make sure he ate every day, while his mom is sitting at home lying to the sheriffs. And she made like 6 reports. I found out after I got custody of them, 6 reports in like a month's time frame to the sheriff's department, because she lives in the sheriff's district. We live very close to each other, but she lives in sheriff's, I'm in Slidell. So she made like 6 reports of saying he was a runaway. So she was establishing the pattern that she needed to, so that if she wasn't going to give him back to me to raise him, because she damn sure didn't want to raise him, she wasn't going to give him back to me because of all the stuff that happened in Florida, and she didn't want all of that. You know, she was trying to just eliminate that stuff coming out. If she wasn't going to give him back to me, she was going to turn him over to the state. She was going to let the state take him, because again, she didn't want to raise him. She never did. Hence why I raised him since he was 6 years old. You know.
Huh.
So yeah.
Wow, this is
Wow. What do you say to all that? Huh?
exactly. That's very scary for a lot of people.
Yes, and that's why I guess I've been so involved in what you kind of have, based your thing around and everything, and what you promote and all. And I think it's wonderful, because the family court, our situation has brought me to look into, and just has led me down the rabbit hole that led me to family court stuff, led me to juvenile situations with juvenile courts, led me to probate court with the senior citizens and them guardian lightians and all. My case exposed and opened to me a number of concerns in every department with that. And so, yeah, that's very scary. It's very scary to know that I could be facing, as my mom's only child, for simply trying to secure my mother's future, that I could be facing watching her be carted off and be in that situation. It's sad. It's real sad. And it's like, people, it almost makes you not even want to claim that you have half of what you have if you're a senior citizen, or if you're in that situation. Because they see your assets and they see what they can get their claws into, and there they go. And I can't think of his name offhand, but there's the one gentleman and his wife. They had their dad and them had the cleaning company or something with the parish or the state, wherever they lived at. You know what I'm talking about? God, I can't think of his name. Well, anyway, he from hearing his story and that on social media, he has a podcast and a bunch of different things too that they've expanded out to. Seeing his stuff and all, it's alarming. It's really alarming to know that, you almost don't want your parents to have any assets when they get to a certain point. And then that's alarming too, because how many children would take advantage of, sadly, how many people out there would really take advantage of their own parents and their assets? It's kind of like, as a senior citizen, as a parent in that situation, who do you entrust all of this to? it's scary all the way around. It really is.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm glad I had you on so we could talk about this. And
Thank you.
I like to have you back on for updates.
Okay.
Be
God, has 45 minutes went by that fast?
I think it was a little bit longer, but that's
Oh
okay.
goodness. Okay, it doesn't even seem that long. Okay, well, I appreciate it so much.
Well, but
Yeah.
how can people reach you if they have any questions?
I have my phone number on social media. It's 985-640-7315. Pretty ballsy for me just to put it out there like that, but it is what it is. I'm trying to be as transparent about our situation as I'm trying to instill upon the authority figures that they need to be with us as the citizens.
Mhm.
So I have to put it out there. There is my email address if they want to email me, or on Facebook they can private message me. Any way is fine. Even if they want to just message me on Facebook to a comment or something, and just I'll see it and message them back or something.
Oh,
I would suggest though, if anyone has anything that they really want to ask about court or ask me about something in my case or whatever, that they not put that information publicly, that they would contact me privately and discuss that. Yeah. So
definitely.
yeah. Well, there's a lot more to talk about, and there's a lot
Oh,
of things that I think people need to. One thing I would really like to stress to everybody is to go down to your local tax assessor's office. Get a printout of what your current tax information says on there. Look and see what instrument numbers do they have listed on there for you. And again, if people get that information and they're not sure how to understand it, by God, call me and let me help you understand. I don't fully understand it all, but I understand it a lot more than what people like my mother, people
mhm.
that never had to deal with this before. And if I can just help a few people understand, and that's really been the biggest reason why I've been showing everything. It's hard to live through the trauma, explain the trauma, define the trauma, and move past the trauma. It's hard to combine all of that into one set of action every day of your life that you're trying to just do,
Mhm.
let alone putting food on the table, making sure your lights are on, and then I moved multiple times from the
Mhm.
sheriff's sales. So add that into all that craziness. And my kid was homeless at the time, pretty much,
Mm.
and gotten where he's in custody right now with the sheriffs for that, for some crazy, stupid stuff that I've never heard of in my life, to be honest. But
Oh,
yeah, but yeah, please, if anybody has any questions, do not hesitate to contact me. I'm not the magic genie. I don't know all the answers by any means, but if I don't know it, I'll help you figure it out. I mean, that's the best I can offer. So,
well, hey, don't jump off.
okay.
Slam the Gavels, a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in family courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth, and Raised by These Wolves, How Family and Federal Courts Are Failing Our Children. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube, Apple iTunes, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio. And again, please don't forget about October 31st at the state capitol, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, for custodial interference at the main rotunda stairs. Okay, so feel free to buy me a cup of coffee if you like, and join us again here with Irwin Savoye in the future. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.